Yeah, hi everyone. This is Wasim again with you, and I'm here with you today with question number three being solved. And this is part three of the series of videos, and we'll be discussing question number three as per NEBOSH IGC open book exam uploaded by NEBOSH on their website recently. Guys, I just want all the new joiners to look at my earlier videos also because if you don't know how to do a research work on scenario and how to take out information from the scenario to put further in the questions being answered, you will not have a complete idea how to solve these questions. In this part, in this question number three, we will be jumping directly to the question and answer later on, but you will not get an idea on how to do a research on the scenario and how to highlight and how to come up with the summaries of scenarios. So if you have not yet seen my earlier videos with regards to NEBOSH open book exam, solved questions, just go back and see those videos to have a complete idea on solving these questions. So let's continue with this question, guys. So friends, if you look at question number three, the task three is effective health and safety policy arrangements. And if you remember your syllabus, this is second element of your IGC 1 in which health and safety management systems are discussed. So on your right side on the screen, you can see the extract of health and safety management system model. If you look at this model, the third component of this model is planning and implementation, and this is basically arrangement section out of which this question came. So, as per the question, the contracts manager tries to reassure the health and safety committee that the company has an adequate statement of general policy for health and safety. Copies of the policy are shown to the committee, and we will see the extract of policy statement in the next slide so that we have better idea what is mainly discussed in that statement of intent. So main question is based on the scenario only, comment on how effectively this policy has been implemented. Question is again very straightforward, but in this question you need to, most of the time you need to stick to the scenario itself. You are not going to dig out more information through different digital media or whatever. Only you need to do some research on the scenario given by NEBOSH, and you need to come up with all those relevant points in which they try to mention it that the policy is not properly implemented within the organization. So let's start, guys. So as we discussed in earlier videos also, we need to do a certain mind mapping thing to formulate our answer. So if you look at this slide, we start with introduction. Before writing your answer, we divide it in three parts. And the first part is introduction part, then body of the answer, and then conclusion. So in introduction part of the answer, we need to highlight importance of HSE policy, proper communication of HSE policy at all levels, and policy implementations. So these are very critical points. You need to make a base for further discussions. What we are going to discuss in the body of the answer, that why these things are very important, and proper communication, proper implementation of HSE policy is of critical importance. In the body of the answer, we will be doing some research work and we will be connecting the actual scenario with the policy extracts. So what is mentioned in the policy, what's going on actually on the site, these are the points we need to define here, and we need to do some comparative study on scenario and policy statement, which we will be doing in the next slides. And then conclusion, winding up with major arguments to conclude. So in this conclusion part, we need to summarize the whole thing we discussed on top, and we need to emphasize on the fact that policy must be implemented properly to get desired results, to achieve the objectives, to achieve the targets set on top in the policy. So we will be doing some homework here. So friends, as you can see on this slide, I have taken out a print screen of the extract of health and safety policy statement given in the scenario, and we'll be looking at all of these points, and we'll be highlighting major issues in the scenarios in which there is a clear breach of all of these points and the organization and the management is not committed to these points. So we'll be doing some research work in the coming slides. Friends, now we are going to do a comparative study and we will see how the scenario is providing us some of the information where the organization is not committed to their policy statements. And I put forward here two columns. One of the column is scenario key points and the other column is policy key points. So if we look at the first key point in scenario, poor management commitment, safety leadership, and it is clearly shown by the management style of the contracts manager that he is not at all approachable and he's got an irritable behavior. He's unapproachable, and even if you somehow approach him, he is using abusive language and he don't like to be contacted by employees on site. So this shows a very poor leadership. This shows a very poor management commitment. And health and safety policy, first of all, is the management commitment. So management must provide commitment. Management should be visible. Management should be interested in health and safety at site. Then only you can further move on and develop a safety culture. Then only you can achieve your objectives in health and safety policy set on top. You can achieve those objectives because management is a very key focal point who is going to provide you first of all commitment, then resources, then arrangements. Everything is done by management. So if management has got such a behavior, then for sure you will not have safety culture, you will not have proper implementation of policies on site. So this one point is very clear that whole of the policy statement, whole of the points mentioned in this statement are useless if the management is not committed. And the first point shows us very clearly that the management is not at all committed. Moving to the second point in the scenario, unsafe condition, poor risk assessment and parking area. Scenario provide us certain information that the office building is a business park away from main traffic routes. The office has its own on-site car park, but spaces are sometimes limited. Poorly designed parking areas. When all the allocated spaces are taken, some vehicles are parked across existing parked cars. Unsafe act. Blocking them in and making it hazardous to maneuver. No one has assessed this risk in the car park. So this provides us a very clear information, and now if you connect it with the policy key points, uh, I have highlighted some of the points here. So one of the point in policy key points is provide safe and healthy working conditions. So looking at this parking space, it is not properly designed for adequate number of cars they are going to park there, and most of the time the areas are very squeezed. It is difficult to maneuver in that car park area, so this is not a safe working condition provided by employer. Second point also relates provide safe plant equipment for office and mobile workers, so they fail to provide, because if you look at the second key point in the scenario we highlighted, it is a clear breach of this point also. And also one of the point is identify health and safety hazards and risk in the areas. So they failed to identify all of these hazards and risks, and there was no risk assessment done in the car park area. It is clearly mentioned in the scenario, no one has assessed the risk in the car park area. So there are certain points which you can highlight in your discussion in the body of the question, and while answering you can highlight these points, you can correlate them with the policy statement and the breaches going on the site to show the implementation of policy is very poor. Looking at the third point, near miss, unsafe act, poor safety behaviors. So one of the policy statement points says investigate accidents and near misses. However, whatever went wrong there, actually in the scenario, nobody is ready to investigate, nobody is ready to report, nobody is taking it seriously that something bad happened already and they need to, you know, report it, they need to investigate it, they need to put forward some control measures. So there is a clear breach. If you look at this first point, investigate accidents and near misses, none of the procedure is in place. So again, this is evidence of poor implementation of health and safety policy at site. So friends, doing some further research on the other points, one of the point highlighted here in the key scenario was repeated incidents, poor reporting and investigation procedures. And looking at the scenario, when you decided to talk informally with some of the workers, they described previous near misses and minor collisions with vehicles reversing out of allocated spaces in their other vehicles and vehicles narrowly missing pedestrians. The worker said that they would not report these because they were afraid of being blamed. Also, no one listened to them or took any actions on the previously reported incidents. And they also told that there is no formal health and safety discussion between workers and managers. So, putting this information and comparing it with the key points in the policy, you can easily highlight few of the points. For example, investigate accidents and near misses. This part is missing. Looking at the scenario, nobody is reporting, nobody is investigating the near misses, and there are very frequent near misses happening in the organization. Prevent injury and ill health, organization has not done any arrangement to meet this point also. They are not preventing injuries and ill health because they don't have any risk assessment procedure implemented on site, and providing a safe and healthy workplace or working conditions is also one of the point which they are not complying with. However, they mentioned everything in their policy, but looking at the scenario exactly, nothing could be found in that scenario which is mentioned in the policy. The last point is consultation with worker. In their policy, they are highlighting that they will do consultation with the worker. However, workers informed you, looking at the scenario, that they are not going to report it because many times they reported such incidents and no action was taken. And they also told you that there is no formal health and safety discussion between workers and managers. So the consultation is missing. Again, it's very poor implementation or no implementation of health and safety policy. And at the end of the day, the operation manager also said it was best for people to sort them out, sort out their issues themselves. Rather, management is not at all committed to provide any of the commitment mentioned in their key points in policy. So these are all breaches. You can highlight them in your own words and you can make your point here that it's a very poor implementation of health and safety policy if you look at the scenario. The key point highlighted in the scenario is showing very clearly that there is no risk assessment done in the car park area and the lighting is not adequate. Also, some of the lights they were using uh, from the floodlights mounted in the office areas, they are also not working that time. That's why the incident happened. So, guys, again, you can correlate it with the policy key points, and one of the point is provide safe and healthy working condition, which is missing here in this condition because they fail to assess the risks. Also, they are not meeting their legal requirements. Risk assessment and identification of hazards and all of these things are legal requirements so that you come up with a safe workplace and all that. Identify health and safety hazards and risk. Again, due to non-availability of risk assessment, they are breaching this point also, and providing training to the workers. This point also is somehow related here because nobody knows what to do in such conditions. Looking at the second point highlighted in scenario, poorly communicated health and safety policy, lack of commitment. Guys, they have highlighted almost everything in the policy key points, but what if this policy is not visible? What if nobody knows about this policy? Then this is only a piece of paper. This is only to show off, and they made your life very easy in discussing on this point, in the second point. it is clearly mentioned that when you decided to review commitment the company has made to worker health and safety, there seems to be no statement of general policy, statement of intent on health and safety. The policy is not displayed on notice board. None of the worker knows about the policy, what health and safety policy is, and where is the health and safety policy. Okay, and uh, contracts manager inform you that policy is very important document, but it is used only for third-party submissions. So it is very clear now that there is no implementation of health and safety policy, and there is no consultation, there is no training of workers to inform them what health and safety policy is and what are the ingredients of that policy and how to implement that policy. All of these arrangements are missing. So it is very clear now from the scenario that people are not aware of policy, nobody see that policy on workplace, it's only a piece of paper, so there is no implementation of this policy. Friends, looking at this last part of our comparative study on scenario and policy statement, again, it is clearly mentioned here that last health and safety committee meeting was over a year ago, which is a poor consultation arrangement, I would say, because within the organization they have mentioned clearly that they will have a consultation with workers. However, uh, a consultation frequency over a year ago shows management commitment is very weak towards health and safety, and they are not discussing frequently the risks and the hazards and the problems associated with people with regards to health and safety. So they are not at all taking any arrangement in this. Okay, they are not providing adequate training to people also, which is another breach of their commitment to health and safety. And looking at the last point here, review this policy every 10 years. As we all know, and you might have studied in your syllabus also, that a health and safety policy must be reviewed once in a year at least. So if you are mentioning in your policy that it will be reviewed in 10 years, this is a breach of legal requirement also. They are not meeting their legal requirements and they are reviewing their health and safety policy in 10 years one time, which is not acceptable. So these points are also very strong points to discuss things on during your answers and all that. So till this stage we highlighted all of major issues, and it is very much clear now that the implementation of health and safety policy, looking at the scenario and the statement of the policy, is not at all matching. Statement of the policy is saying so many things they are going to do, but actually on site things are not there in place, and it is called a very poor implementation of health and safety policy. So friends, in the conclusion part of our answer now, after doing all that research and all, integration of the scenario and the policy statement, now we are in a very good position to make our point and make it concluding thought that looking at these major points which are mentioned on this slide, you can make your point very easy. That first of all, there is no management commitment, which is very important to be there to have health and safety policies implemented. No risk assessment in place, no consultation arrangements, no reporting and investigation procedures implemented at site. Near misses are repeating with very higher frequencies, and there is inadequate review frequency of health and safety policy, which is 10 years. So all of these highlighted points, you can make a major point and you can discuss them in a paragraph shape. You can say, looking at all of these things, it is very clear that the health and safety policy is not at all visible, is not properly implemented at site, and even people are unaware of the policy. So the question is answered here. The examiner was asking you in the beginning whether the health and safety policy is properly implemented or not. So the answer is no. Health and safety policy is not at all implemented properly, and the organization uh, should, do a lot of things to implement health and safety policy. And the key point is management commitment should be there to get these policies implemented. If the management think policy is not important document and it is only used for third party submissions to get contracts and projects but not actually implemented on site, then for sure the health and safety policy will never be implemented. So management commitment is a key point to focus on here, and then consultation, training of workers, and implementation of procedures, monitoring, supervision, and so many things are there which can be taken on to implement the policy properly. So guys, at the end, I would like to say that most of the time you get privilege to access some media, some digital medias, your book and other resources to answer the question. But in such type of question, they restrict you to scenario and they want you to look at the scenario carefully and see the actual statement of policy and see where are the gaps and whether it is properly implemented or not. So this is how we need to do research and we need to come up with our own thoughts whether the policy was implemented or not. Hope you like the approach. Stay connected, stay tuned. I'll be coming up with another video very shortly, which is question number 4, and I would be trying to complete it as soon as possible because the exam date is 6th of August and I want you to keep an eye on all of the questions being answered before exam date approach. So see you soon guys. Stay blessed, stay safe, and see you in another video very soon. Thank you very much.